Now that we have some of the product page styled and at least marked up the way that it should be, let's jump into styling the header. And the reason I like styling the header as one of the first elements is because it gives us a nice way to see how everything else should fit into the theme. So let's go back into our application.scss file, and just above the product page styling, let's give a few spaces and let's create a new comment. And we'll just say general styling. And then what I want to do here is get rid of all of the button stylings. And we'll just say margin 0, padding 0, background color transparent, border none, appearance none. Just because we want to remove all of the initial styling that just comes with HTML. Box shadow none, font inherit, and then outline none. Now let's leave that for now, just because I wanted to get it out of the way once we actually start styling some of the buttons. And let's create a new comment. And we'll call this one start variables. So attached to the original zip file, I'm gonna have the font included, but I'll also have the font attached to this lecture, so you can just go ahead and download that. So let's use the font face. And we'll say font family. And then we can call it whatever we want. We were gonna be using Helvetica LT Pro Bold. And actually we can just remove all the spaces here just so it's a little bit easier to see. And then the source will be the URL. And inside of the URL, we're actually going to access this using Liquid. So I have the font over here in my assets folder. I'm just going to drag it into my assets in the theme. And you can see right away Shopify's theme watch process that file. And now inside of the URL, we can create single quotes and then double mustaches. And then what we can do is we can just copy the file name here. And then inside of there, we want double quotes, and we'll put a pipe and say that this is an asset URL. And after that, we want to say format, and we want to say what the format is, which is WOFF2. And that's good. The other thing I want to also create is the media queries for our phone, tablet, and desktop. So we can just say mix in phone, and we can say add media max, let me just give it a space here, max width, and we can just say 599 pixels. And then inside of that, we'll say all the content that's going to go inside here. So what we're going to do in the future is place all of the content inside of this phone mix-in, and I'm going to show you how that works. And then we can just copy all of this. Two times, and we can change this one to tablet, and the max width here will be 900. And then for the last one, it'll be desktop, and the desktop we want it to be 1200 pixels. So let's save that, and all of our variables are now finished. And then let's go down a little bit and we'll create another comment, and we'll say here start presets. And this is where we're going to create a few classes that we're going to be able to reuse, and also we'll give styling to the body as well. So what we can say now is .container. If you remember, I added the container class over here to the product, and we're going to reuse this in a few places as well. So what we can say is container, and then we'll also do footer and header, comma. Oh, excuse me, no comma after the header. And we'll just say padding 0 and 24 pixels. Actually, we'll give this 25 pixels just to keep it round. And the reason we're doing this is because we want the container, the footer, and the header to always have the 25 pixels on the sides. Next, we'll move on to the body, and we can say font weight 700, because everything in our theme is pretty bold. And then we'll say font size 16 pixels. And then we'll have line height 1.25. And font family, we can just copy the name from above here. And then we'll give some fallback values here as well, which will be Helvetica. And we can actually just insert all of this. But we'll remove Arial and place it over here. So this is basically for older browsers. If they don't have support for custom themes, it'll fall back on just the regular Helvetica. And then if they don't have that, it'll fall into the Arial font. And then we'll also create a few more just in case we end up using these. And we can say flex and display flex. And this is just so that instead of having to create a display flex for any particular components, we can just add the class flex, and then that component will automatically be display flex. And then we can say space between, and we can just do justify content space between. So this is very useful when you're working with larger themes and they have very repeating styles on a lot of the components. And this just saves some time for us. As we're creating the component, we can just throw in that class name and everything is good to go from there. And then we can say column, and then we can say half, and then width 50%. Let's go back to the general styling and finish up some of these. Also remove all of the styling from our A tags, because right now, as you can see, we have link underlining and the link colors for our A tags, and I do not want that. Text decoration, and we'll say none. And that will pretty much remove most of the text decoration. As you can see, some of the changes have already taken place, like our button here. And we'll also say color black. And then we'll add this selection. And we'll say here background color black, and we'll say the text color, we want it to be white. And it's going to create a pretty cool effect where when we select things, it's going to make the background color black, and then the actual text will turn white. Okay, so we got most of the basic styling done. Let's jump into the header now. And as we can see, the header is basically just a line, and everything is kind of flex space between. And then we have these hover effects on the elements. This one does open the cart, but we'll be creating the cart a little bit in the future because the cart will involve some Vue.js as well. Right now, our header looks just like this. And so we need to go into the header element. And right now our header element is actually inside of theme.liquid. And if we go into our theme.liquid and scroll down to the bottom, we can see that we have the menu links here. So basically we have some liquid logic that says for link list dot main menu dot links, we want to create a bunch of links. And let me show you where the navigation for this is. So if we go back into our Shopify store and click on online store, then we'll go into navigation. And we can see here that there's a main menu object. And when we click on that, we get this drag and drop display here where we can create new menu items. And we can see that the handle for our menu is called main menu. And we're referencing the main menu here as well. So we're grabbing all of the links inside of the menu that we created here. And if you don't have these right now, go ahead and create them. So in order to create the home, we can just type in here home. And then for the link, you want to just put a slash because that's going to send you back to the home page. And for the collection, put the name as collection, and then you can link to a specific collection. And you can do that by just clicking here and typing collections or looking for collections and select certified theme build or whatever you named your collection and hit save and save menu. So what we want to do now is replace all of this with our own snippet. So we can go in here and create a new snippet called header.liquid. And then let's go ahead and grab this stuff and the cart as well. Actually, we can probably grab all of this. And we can just paste it inside of the header snippet. Hit save. And now we want to render the header inside of our theme.liquid. And the reason we're rendering it inside the theme.liquid is because we want the header to show up on every page. So let's go right above the main and we can say render header. And then we can also right away just put here render footer. And let's go to the snippets and also create a footer.liquid file. And we'll deal with this later, but for now we'll just have this placeholder. And so what we have inside of our body now is the header, the footer, and then the main container with all of the content inside of it. So as you can see now, the theme.liquid file looks much more simpler than what we had before because we cleaned it up and now we know where everything is. And then we can actually just format this a little bit better. Now let's close our theme.liquid file and take a look at our header. So what we have here is basically the links for our navigation menu. Then we have the cart and also the customer navigation menu, or also like the link to go to the customer section. We're not going to be dealing with the customer section in this course. So let's grab all of this and we'll just paste it over here. And we'll comment all of this out. And in Liquid, the way that you want to comment things out is using the comment tag. When we're commenting things out like this, the elements that we remove don't appear inside of the inspector. And now we're just left with the cart. So let's go ahead and mark this up now. We can completely remove this A tag containing the /cart because we're going to want to use a custom slide out mini cart. So we can remove that and we can name this header just for better SEO, and we can give it a class of header. And then I'll give it an ID of header as well. And then inside of that, I will say div class equals header inner. And then we will also say div class equals, div dot menu drawer because we want to have the slide out drawer there. And we're just creating some placeholders here. And then we'll create an A tag. And the class name for this will be header title. And for the href, we'll just give it a slash. But then inside of the actual text for the A tag, we'll use liquid to display the shop name. And we can just do that by saying shop.name. So now let's save that and go back to our website and see what we have. And there we go. So that's the shop name. And as you can see, it's a link. And now let's create some more placeholders. We'll create another one for the cart button container. This will be the button that toggles the actual mini cart to open. And then inside of here as well, we actually want to have the div for the mini cart. So we'll just say div.minicart. And we're going to be creating this mini cart a little bit later. But for now, we'll just have this empty div here. All right, so let's take a look at what we have. So we have the header inner, menu drawer, the cart button container, and the mini cart. And actually, let's move this header title up a little bit because we want it to be after the menu drawer. Now, inside of the menu drawer, let's create a button with the class of menu button. And then inside of the button, let's create a span. And inside of the span, I want it to say menu. So let's save that, go back. And we can see that the menu appeared as well. And inside of the cart button container, let's do the same thing. We'll create a button with class name cart link or cart button. And inside of the cart button, we can have the span with cart name. So now we have the three items that we want to be in our header. Let's go ahead and position them properly. Inside of the application.scss, let's go just above the product page. And we'll create a new comment and say start header. And we'll say header inner. And we'll give this one a height of 72 pixels. And then we'll say display flex. Or we can actually not say display flex, but inside of the header, we can just give this a class name of flex. And also space between. And then inside here, all we need to do is align items and we'll say center. And for the bottom border, we'll say border bottom 1 pixel and solid. And then let's also use the phone media query that we created, and we'll say include phone, and then we'll say here display none, because we're going to be creating a new header just for the phone version. And if you remember, it looks something like this. As you can see, the header for the mobile version is at the bottom because this makes it more accessible for the thumbs. So just above the header inner, let's also style the actual header, which will be .header, and we can say position fixed because we don't want it to be sliding up and down as we're scrolling and just stay in the same spot. And we'll say top 0, left 0, and right 0. And then we'll just give it a background color of white. And Z index, we'll give it a 10. And then for mobile, we'll say include phone and position static. So the items inside of our header are still at the top. And this is because inside of our header, we need to have this header inner going around most of the items, where we actually don't right now. So let's just move this div to the bottom here, just above the mini cart. And then we can format this. And then let's also move these class names inside of our header inner as well. And now if we go back, everything is positioned properly. Since we're going to have hover events that move these elements to the sides, we need to actually make the logo or the store name position absolute, just so it stays in the same spot whenever these items actually move. Because the way that Flexbox works is when one item moves, it kind of shifts the other one over as well. So let's go back into the application.scss, and then just under header inner, we'll say header title, and we want this to be position absolute, and then we'll say left 50%, and we'll also do a transform, and this will be translate minus 50%. This just puts it in the middle and doesn't allow the actual item to move anywhere when the page kind of shifts and the items beside it shift. But now we see that the header kind of went over all of the content. So we need to give a padding to the actual main so that the header doesn't go over top everything that we have there. And the reason it's going over top is because our header is position fixed, which basically takes it out of the position of all the elements and puts it into the position that we wanted to, which was top 0 and left 0 and right 0. So it's basically putting it at the very top of the page there. So let's go ahead back into our presets, and just below the body we'll say main, and we'll give a padding top of 72 pixels as well, because that's how big our header is. And then for the mobile version, we will say padding top equals 0, because once again, we're going to have a separate header just for the mobile version. So let's hit save, and we'll see how this looks. All right, perfect. So we got the basic styling for the header done. Let's go ahead and jump into the collection page now.